Yesterday was a very important day in this country, politically speaking. There were two by-elections, Mogoga Ward and Kiambaa constituency. Those two by-elections were significant, politically speaking, and specifically the Kiambaa parliamentary by-election. In Kiambaa, the Deputy President William Samoei Ruto and President Uhuru Kenyatta were facing off. The results are already out, although by the time of doing this video, which is slightly a few minutes to 1 p.m., the results had not been announced. I think there are some 2 or 3 wards which had not been declared. But based on the figures as at now, the UDA candidate is leading. And I don't think there is anything which is going to stop him from being declared the winner. So far, he has 21,773 votes against the Jubilee candidate who has 21,263, a difference of only 510 votes. So in this video today, I want us to look at how William Samoei Ruto outmaneuvered and engineered the fall of President Uhuru Kenyatta in Kiambaa. But William Ruto should not celebrate these results so much because of 3 reasons only. Number one, the margin. The margin is only 510. The win is good psychologically for him and his team, but that margin, because we all know that for a long time, personally, from my perspective, for a long time, I imagined that Jubilee was actually finished in the larger Mount Kenya region. So either the Jubilee candidate was popular or Jubilee party is trying to reinvent itself in the larger Mount Kenya region. That's number one. Number two, you should also be worried about President Uhuru Kenyatta's reaction after this election. For those who follow politics very closely, there was a time Dennis Itumbi leaked details about President Uhuru Kenyatta meeting with the members of parliament who are campaigning for the Jubilee candidate. And in that leak, Dennis Itumbi stated that the president told them that he's going to support the Jubilee candidate. But his wish was that the people of Kiambaa vote for someone they believe can work for them. And Itumbi added at that time that the president told this team that his focus is not really that by election, but 2022 general election. So William Ruto should be very careful with how President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to react. And number 3, a rejuvenated Jubilee. This result is actually going to give a boost to Jubilee. Remember, Jubilee has been losing series of by-elections with a huge margin. They've lost several seats to Moses Kuria's party. In Georgia, the margin was even bigger. In fact, there was a difference of 50% gap between the Jubilee candidate and the PEP candidate. In Kiambaa today, the difference is actually just 1%. So William Ruto must also be very careful. But how did he manage to outwit and engineer the fall of President Uhuru Kenyatta? Because let's face it, Uhuru Kenyatta needed to win in Kiambaa. He has lost. That loss alone means that Uhuru Kenyatta is likely to be a lame duck president. Number 2, the theory about deep state is being debunked. Probably it doesn't apply. Or do we assume that the Jubilee candidate got these 21,000 votes because of the deep state? But how did William Ruto manage to outwit him? Before we get into all those details, if you're watching this channel for the first time, please take a second or 2 and click the subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue to thank you guys for your continued support. Now let us get back to business. The truth of the matter is that William Ruto's presidential bid is actually pegged in the number of votes he's going to get from the larger Mount Kenya region. He's doing everything possible to ensure that ultimately he is the king of the larger Mount Kenya region. President Uhuru Kenyatta, being the president, is also not going to sit down and watch the deputy president running over him. In fact, I was telling someone that what the DP is doing to President Uhuru Kenyatta can only happen in central Kenya. Nobody can dare do that to Ruto if he's the president in Rift Valley. And even Raila Odinga, if he's the president, nobody can dare do that to him in Nyanza. It can't happen. But here we are. The deputy president has outwitted his boss. Because as much as Jubilee is unpopular, as much as the president might be unpopular, the president needed to win the Kiambaa seat to stamp his authority. But that has not happened. How did William Ruto outwit him? Number one is grassroots. Unknown to Jubilee, William Ruto had a clear strategy on how he was going to win this seat. The only thing I'm wondering is why it did not go according to his plan. I was talking to someone who was involved in this campaign, and he was telling me that their strategy was very simple. They went to that constituency, mapped it out, identified their strongholds, and focused on those strongholds. And then they went further and identified what they were calling mobilizers. They identified like around 15,000 people, according to the guy. So they just identified 15,000 people, and their idea and calculations was that these 15,000 people, each one of them was told to go to the polling station with only 2 people. That would have translated to around, if you had 15 plus 30, that would have been around 45,000 people. So their estimation was that even if all these guys were not going to get 2 people, at least they had a chance, they were sure of 30,000 votes from a start. So that there were those who were just going to come to vote. These ones were also going to add to their tally. But now they are at 21,000. Probably maybe it did not work as per their plans, or maybe the chiefs thwarted those attempts. So William Ruto went to the ground, mobilized. While that was happening, President Uhuru Kenyatta's camp was still not very sure. You were still seeing people like Wamushomba ditching President Uhuru Kenyatta the last time. You were seeing those non-Jubilee members of parliament not keen on this particular by-election. In fact, I credit the performance of Jubilee to 3 people: Pauline Njoroge, Peter Mwadhi, the Limuru member of parliament, and Wambugu Ngunjiri. And today, those 3 people are being accused of interfering with that election because they were outsiders. But the truth of the matter is that the DP had a clear strategy, and they went to the grassroots and mobilized those grassroots. Number 2, the second thing which the DP also managed to do was to manage a fallout within his camp. There was going to be a major fallout between the Deputy President William Ruto's key allies, Moses Kuria and Rigathi Gachagua. As a matter of fact, there was a fallout. But DP managed to stem that fallout. Without stemming that fallout, without managing that fallout, I'm sure they would have lost. The truth of the matter is that Rigathi Gachagua is a member of the UDA. He wanted to take credit. But when it comes now to the grassroots, the guy who has the people is Moses Kuria. So if they had succeeded in their fallout, probably Moses Kuria would have taken a low profile. With Moses Kuria taking a low profile, you would have actually, with Moses Kuria taking a low profile, it would have meant that this margin of 510, it would have been narrowed down. In fact, this 510 gap, even if the women rep alone stayed in Jubilee, probably she would have delivered those votes. So William Ruto managed to tame the fallout within his camp. Uhuru Kenyatta did not. There are so many people who are not in Kiambaa. Why? Because of a fallout. Even the senator for Kiambu was nowhere. The governor was campaigning, but because of a fallout, he was not keen. There are people who felt that his image was not required, but it was the governor. So there was a lot of fallout. People like William Kabogo were nowhere. By the time they were trying to come together, it was a bit late. And again, the president's team came to Kiambaa late. Number 3 is propaganda. Politics is all about propaganda. If you studied Kiambaa, they had their issues. Jubilee tried the propaganda of, oh, Wanjiku is not one of the residents of Kiambaa, that is a son of Rigathi Gachagua. But what the deputy president and his team were telling the people is that this guy you are seeing here is a son of a single mother. You know, yeye amezaliwa na babake, babake ameenda mbali. He's a son of a single mother who just struggled, and he was now part and parcel of the team. Remember the name Wanjiku. When you talk of Wanjiku, what do you really mean? And then they coined this campaign strategy that Wanjiku wa Wanjiku, Wanjiku for Wanjiku or Wanjiku for Wanjiku, something like that. So their propaganda, how Jubilee has failed, how it's about Raila Odinga, how President Uhuru Kenyatta has joined NASA, paid off. The president, on his part, just decided to let it go. The fourth thing the DP did, which I think worked magic for him, is to appeal to the poor people. Majority of Kenyans are poor. Kariri Njama has been with the people or the residents of Kiambaa. And I'm sure that those who did not vote for him, and they will start regretting tomorrow. But Ruto did one thing. He went to these people because they were poor, and he appealed to their emotion. They used to organize extravaganza in the markets where they would go shopping extravaganza, where they would go and shop. They would buy a banana, single banana at 200 bob. So they appeared to be part of these people. So the poor people embraced them. At some point, they even tried to construct a road in Gashie. By the way, in Gashie, I think the DP has a problem there. Or Kariri Njama was more popular. The kind of beating his team received there, they need to rethink. But the DP and his team actually managed to appeal to the emotions of the poor people. They made President Uhuru Kenyatta appear as someone who is out of touch, someone who cannot solve their problem, and that their problems can only be solved by one man called Wanjiku. Let us wait and see how he's going to turn out, this member of parliament, because personally, and I can't be biased, based on the comments, Kariri Njama was a very popular guy in the last election. He was rigged out. Again, he was very popular, even as heading to this election. To some extent, even the DP reached out to him so that he could run on the UDA ticket. Again, because of loyalty, he decided to stick by Uhuru Kenyatta. So he's been a very popular guy. Let us wait and see the performance of the current member of parliament to this Kariri Njama. And lastly, which is the most important, is the IBC. The IBC, as currently constituted, cannot preside over a free, fair, credible, and verifiable election. William Ruto is controlling IBC. That's the fact. You need to do your research. Without that, the system would have managed to rig this election. So William Ruto worked with President Uhuru Kenyatta in the last election. And during that last election, the fact of the matter is that they rigged the election. So all those rigging schemes, strategies, and everything, William Ruto had them in his pocket. Yesterday, the DP was following the results of Kiambaa. Personally, he was personally present at the Jubilee tallying, at the UDA tallying center. He was there. Which means if their agent was relaying the results from point BA, the moment it arrived, the first person to see it was the DP. And then they fed it. But the outcome of those results, like in Maguga, there were some discrepancies. Itumbi's results, which they were receiving, was in some instances actually different from the actual figures on the ground there. Why was that happening? IBC. And IBC allowed Itumbi to relay his information, his data. Remember, the only body mandated to issue results is the IBC. Itumbi had a parallel tallying center. Being broadcasted live. NASA, they could not allow NASA to do that. Why was IBC allowing Itumbi, for example, to run that parallel tallying center? You see, the moment you run a parallel tallying center and you engineer and you take charge of a narrative that you are leading, it means even if you lose, your supporters will believe you lost. During the election in Siaya in 2013, where Dual was pitted against other candidates, his guy was Kevin Doso, who was a good friend of mine by that time. You see, they crafted a similar thing. Their strategy was simple. Go outside there, Tangulia. As people are still counting the votes there, start releasing your results. After releasing your results, let your guy go outside there and celebrate. So which means by the time the others were realizing, Oduol was already celebrating, his people had believed that he had won. So that even if other results were to come, the perception outside there was that he was rigged out. Kevin is telling me that that's what they did. And that probably they were not the real winners. The figures which they used were actually just their own figures to manage the perception of the people, of the voters outside there. I don't know what you think, but the DP has outwitted President Uhuru Kenyatta. So the question is, what next for President Uhuru Kenyatta after this outcome? That's going to be my next video after this. Thank you guys. And if you're watching this video for the first time, please take a second or two and click subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, and continue thanking you guys for your continued support. Thank you, and may you have a good day.